I've been impressed with you, Tariq. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't familiar with your story. Your father.
Well, no one really knew my father.
Sounds like he had at least two faces.
Now, connections to Ghost and his history was certainly something I was expecting to see more of in Ghost Season 3, especially when it comes to Tariq entering Wall Street and the real world of business with RSJ, which is becoming one of the hot topics after every week. Something Omari Hardwick made reference to in one of his recent interviews that he's done is how we never really saw the man behind James, Ghost St. Patrick, and how we can dive even deeper into his backstory. Ghost was a character who we first met when he was into a 6-month working relationship with Felipe Lobos. He was also a successful businessman who owned laundromats where he cleaned his cash and even opened Club Truth.
See that, Pop? I did it.
A dream that would have certainly made his father proud, and that's what RSJ wants for Tariq St. Patrick. He wants Tariq to make his father proud because he owes it to his old man.
I heard you have an estate. Do something smart with it. You owe it to your old man.
Now, even though Tariq doesn't realize he owes a lot to Ghost, they may have had their turbulent relationship which was covered with lies, deceit, and murders, but you can't deny the advantages Ghost gave to someone like Tariq. Tariq may not be the front of the classroom in terms of advantages, but he's certainly a lot more further than someone like Effie or Brushandria, and RSJ definitely is someone who recognizes how great James St. Patrick was. So in the rest of this video, we're going to be looking at what we know about RSJ so far, how he may be a man in a suit, but a character that may also have two faces just like James St. Patrick and also Tariq, but how even though Ghost is dead, there's still more story to tell, which is something Courtney Kemp once mentioned in the Crew Has a Podcast, and I'm going to come back around to that at the end. Now, what do we know about RSJ? He's a successful businessman who lost his father at a young age, and that's one of the key differences between him and Tariq St. Patrick. He grew up with not so much of a privileged background, but that didn't stop him from becoming one of the world's richest men, and he's an example of how you don't let your parents define who you are.
My father, he ran numbers. He was a petty criminal. Everybody told me I was going to end up like him.
So his father was a criminal who ran numbers, and just like how Davis gave advice to Tariq in Season 1 about not letting his parents define his future, RSJ did the same. He doesn't have to let his past box him in, but the deeper we get into Power Book 2 Ghost, the more we're beginning to realize Tariq is going through something very similar to what his father went through, and the passage from the 48 Laws of Power, something I made reference to before Ghost Season 3, definitely relates to what RSJ just said to Tariq. Sometimes the past can prevent someone like Tariq from creating his own destiny, and he may end up having to do what his father once did, even if his father is now dead, and how Tariq can never come out of his father's shadow unless he adopts the ruthless strategy of Alexander, let go of the past and create his own kingdom, instead of letting go shape his. And it seems like RSJ is someone who didn't let his father shape his future, but I'm going to come back around to the mystery around RSJ in just a moment. The Italian investment opportunity was something that was mentioned in episode 3 during the sit-down he had with Lucas Weston and Tariq St. Patrick. And when Tariq was able to cleverly sign RSJ for Western Holdings through the QCP building move, he realized Tariq was able to be more valuable in more ways than one. RSJ is a businessman, and in business you need to be ruthless and cutthroat, and that's what he showed us and Tariq in episode 5. He let it be known that he didn't need Lucas at the meeting in Milan, and instead, he extended the invitation to Tariq St. Patrick, someone who can speak Italian. After Effie let Tariq know that Navona is a company that's been having patent issues, he told RSJ, and that's something he was able to use as a negotiation tactic in Milan. Instead of walking away from this business meeting with 10% ownership, the offer they left on the table for the tech firm was a 20% ownership with a significant reduction in the cash investment.
You have until the end of business today to accept our offer. I can make these patent issues go away by Monday.
So a strong businessman who knows how to negotiate in the boardroom in a suit. But what about his private life? What do we know about RSJ? Does he have a wife? Does he have kids? And what about his past?
Well, if I was judged by who I was when I was 19, people wouldn't trust me today either.
Before jetting off to Italy, Tariq mentioned that Lucas seems to be evaluating him based on his past, and he knows him that he's been using him for diversity. But a lesson that RSJ taught him in episode 3 was to use them as much as they're using him, and he certainly is based on all cap, no frap, and using Crash Coin to clean his cash. But in the conversation in episode 5, RSJ said that if he was judged when he was 19, people wouldn't trust him either. So who was RSJ when he was 19? What did he get up to, and why would nobody trust him based on his past either? I do think this gives us a clue that RSJ may not be who he seems, or at least he does have a bit of a checkered history himself, which is why he seems to be giving Tariq St. Patrick every chance to become his own man. He also mentioned that Ghost was someone who seemed like he had two faces.
Well, no one really knew my father.
Sounds like he had at least two faces.
RSJ said he'd be lying if he wasn't familiar with his story, and who wouldn't be? The St. Patricks have been in the headlines long before Power Book 2 Ghost even began. Ghost was someone who was attracting major headlines, especially because of Club Truth. There was also Ghost Case and where the St. Patrick's did a TV interview, so all RSJ would have had to do was a simple Google search and he would have found all the headlines about Ghost trial, reign of St. Patrick's death, and even after season 2, I'm sure there would have been a lot more headlines in regards to Tariq St. Patrick. But with Tariq saying he never really knew his father, I'm going to break the rest of this video down into 2 parts. 1. How Ghost had 2 faces and how Tariq does as well. And secondly, how even though Tariq believes he didn't know his father, he's about to learn a lot more working under someone like RSJ. Now, Ghost was definitely a multi-layered character who was brilliantly portrayed by Omari Hardwick, and RSJ definitely wasn't wrong when he sounded like James St. Patrick lived 2 lives, one business and one personal, and I think many of us can relate. In many of our jobs in any kind of work, I think we all behave a little different compared to how we do in our personal lives. But in terms of Ghost, many saw him just as James St. Patrick, who is a businessman in a Tom Ford suit, someone who ran multiple clubs and laundromats. But we as the audience, as well as a few characters on Power, also knew him as Ghost, a drug-dealing kingpin. Tasha loved the persona of Ghost and what they built together when he was a drug dealer, but when he achieved his dream and found a legit path to come out the game, she didn't like the change from Ghost to James St. Patrick, and then we saw their relationship taking a turn for the worst. Angela, among other factors, definitely played a part, but I think one of the early issues was Ghost's second phase as a legit businessman. Now, whether RSJ had any idea about who James St. Patrick really was is yet to be seen, but I'm sure he would have at least heard rumours about his drug dealing past, and who knows what he got up to when he was 19 himself. He also mentioned that his dad ran numbers and was also a criminal, and as much as many may not like to hear it, sometimes we do grow up being very similar to our fathers. So deep down, who is RSJ? At least, who was he when he was 19? Now, this is the same issue that Tariq St. Patrick is facing at this moment in time. Wherever he goes, the game always seems to find him, and I don't think he'll ever be able to escape the double life, because at some point, surely he has to suffer the same consequences for all the bad shit he's done. Let's not forget, Tariq is definitely not innocent, but whether his story ends in a different manner to Ghost, RSJ is certainly trying to guide him down the right path. So this is the second point I want to touch on, and why I think Tariq will begin to appreciate his father's business acumen the more he lands under RSJ, and it also goes back to something Corny Kemp mentioned in one of the Crew Has It podcasts. Corny Kemp said Ghost is definitely dead, but there's more story to tell, and I think this is one way they're telling more story. There of course could be a young Ghost in Raising Kanan, and they could tell more of his story in Power Book 3, but you can certainly tell more of Ghost's story through Tariq St. Patrick. So is it such a coincidence that RSJ keeps bringing up Tariq's father? Again, not every single character has to be linked, but I can definitely see Tariq beginning to learn more and appreciating the empire that Ghost built under the guidance of someone like RSJ. So I do think it's worth bringing back what Corny Kemp said in the Crew Has It podcast, just to keep that in the back of your minds, how she said there's more story to tell. But that's a breakdown of the story between RSJ and Tariq St. Patrick so far, and how Tariq seems to be learning more about his father's business acumen, rather than that cold letter that would have made him resent his father even more. But I do believe there's more story to tell, 100%, and RSJ mentoring Tariq St. Patrick is definitely one way they're telling that story. So drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section on all things RSJ and Tariq St. Patrick. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.